I'm definitely going to say it's a privilege. I see firsthand that for one, to have health care, you need to have jobs. So therefore, we need to continue to cultivate this environment that we're given the opportunity to have health care as well as jobs to all the American citizens worldwide.
Well, that's your new Miss USA, Kara McCullough. She's facing some backlash now from some on the left over that particular answer. Joining us now, nationally syndicated radio host Dana Loesch. Dana, what did you think of her response?
Good to see you this morning. I loved it. I loved her response, and I thought that she was a fantastic choice for Miss USA. I know that she's getting a lot of hate, of course, the day after. I would imagine that some of it is driven by jealousy, but here you have an example of a gorgeous, smart, strong woman who gives her unvarnished, politically incorrect opinion, and God bless her for it.
Yeah, I mean, she's a scientist at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. She was born in Italy, and you know, I think a lot of people thinking she's representing the District of Columbia, she had to be a liberal. I mean, there are so many people rooting for her on social media, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, they hit the brakes.
Yes, when she was asked about feminism and she said, well, I don't really define myself as that. I look at it more as equalism. However she said her answer, she used the word equalism. I loved it. I thought that was a great answer. And to be Miss USA, and now she's going to take that common sense and those great looks all around the country. And I am very excited that she won Miss USA.
Do you feel there could be a sea change of sorts happening in this country, particularly when it comes to so-called feminism? I know that you talked about this really strong in many ways. Noah, first let's take a listen to what Miss USA had to say, and I wanted to follow up with you on this.
I've liked to lately transpose the word feminism to equalism. I don't really want to consider myself. Try not to consider myself like this, like die-hard, you know, like, oh, I don't really care about men. But one thing I'm going to say is, though, women, we are just as equal as men when it comes to opportunity in the workplace.
I mean, you know, your response, because feminism was always sort of about the woman being victims and somehow rallying around each other and fighting back against the system and the men who try to keep them in their place. At least that's been the argument for it.
To her answer, no, that has been the argument. And to her answer, yes. Can I get an amen to that? That was amazing. No, and you're absolutely right with this. The matriarchy seeks to replace the perceived patriarchy with itself. Modern feminism is an absolute joke. They've turned around and they've eaten themselves. It's not about the choices that you as a woman are allowed to make. You're only allowed to make choices so long as those choices go along with whatever the matriarchy chooses for you. Feminism isn't so much about the empowerment of women as it is about the subjugation of men, and that's what it has been about for so long. Now, when I was in college, I defined myself as a feminism, as a feminist rather. But then I got educated and I grew up and I had sons, and so this Mother's Day, I was giving thanks to God that I was no longer describing myself as a feminist, but rather as an empowered, educated woman, because I'm raising young men. And in a society where we need to raise healthy, smart, empowered young men, I can't very well go around and call myself a feminist and call for the subjugation of men and how men are evil and men are the root of all evil and they're the cause of all our wrongs. Women need to start taking responsibility for our own choices and our own actions. And to this larger point of empowerment, as you know, one of my most big issues with me, and I'm very passionate about it, of course, is the pro-choice right to self-defense. And I want to point out how hypocritical it is, how society tells women that we're smart, that we can do anything we want to do, that we're empowered. Oh, but wait, we're too stupid to own a gun. We're too stupid to carry a gun. So we have these two competing messages thrown at us all the time, every day in society. And I just think that women need to be women and realize that men and women are different and we're both good.
I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the gun issue, but I do want to get the impact so far to men, the negative impact on men. Particularly young men in this society. Do you think it's had, I mean, listen, I think we talk all the time about how young men are so much different than previous generations of young men. Has it been very detrimental in your mind on young men becoming the men who can provide for families and lead this country as they might have done in the past?
Absolutely, I do. And I say this, again, as a mother who's raising young boys. I absolutely feel that way. I think that society has convinced women that they don't need a father, they don't need a husband, they just need government. in the man's place. That women, you can't really do it alone unless you have government. Men have been told that they're really unimportant, that they really don't bring any value, that they're just somehow the oppressor and they need to step back and just, let women be women. I've seen men shamed for being masculine. I love masculinity. What's wrong with being masculine? What's wrong with being tough? What's wrong with chivalry? And I think that the left has a very odd idea of what chivalry is. You can be hardcore on the battlefield and you can be meek in the hall with the ladies, as C.S. Lewis had put it. And so I think that we need to get back to really cultivating those traits: chivalry, real masculinity, being unafraid to stand up and defend a woman, being unafraid to lead your family, being unafraid to take that responsibility. I think about all of the young men that are at college campuses across the country and how if they're just simply accused of sexual misconduct, they're perceived as guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
And that's how it goes for them. And that scares me as a mother of sons. Now, I raise my sons to be gentlemen, but we need to tell people to make sure they're raising their daughters as ladies.
Dana Loesch, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate your thoughts this morning.
Good to see you, Charles.
You too.
Thank you.